Well, sir, it seems I have entered a new journey.
Yes?
I am on a quest of knowledge.
Ooh.
You asked me what book. You saw me carrying a book today from my yard when you came over.
Well, you were walking out of the woods of your backyard with something in a bag.
It was a hammock.
It seemed...
I bought a new hammock. This is unimportant. We don't need to talk about the hammock. But I like reading in my yard. Shut up. It was nice today. Kind of. A little chill. I started reading the Silmarillion. Oh boy. And you know what? I've read the first two prequels, the Ainulindale and Valaquenta. And then I started the first chapter I just finished right before you got here, which is the Quinta Silmarillion. So I feel like I leveled up again.
Yeah?
Level higher of smart guy because I'm retaining the information. And I must say, Spencer, that this is some of the most beautiful writing I have ever read. And the fact that I can even understand what's going on impresses even me because it's pretty difficult, actually. And I started listening to those episodes of that podcast I was talking about, the Prancing Pony podcast. They covered the Silmarillion, chapter by chapter. So I went over the first two prologues and stuff, and they were talking they go really deep into these things. Like they deep dive into it. And I was like, holy shit, I know what they're talking about. And it made me think like, am I getting smarter? Or is
I understand that reference.
It's like, is my retention getting better? Because I went in today into the first chapter and I was because they even say on the thing, on that podcast, don't even try to really remember the names because there's just so many. And I remembered at least half of the names so far. And I was like, holy shit.
And they're not like easy names, I would imagine.
No, they're like, the easiest ones are like the bad guy, Melkor, which is he turns into Morgoth, which is the master of Sauron later on. I haven't got there yet. But yeah, some of the names are very difficult. There is a pronunciation, well, not really a pronunciation guide, how to pronounce the letters, I guess, not the actual words really, but like what certain letters make up, which I'm actually pretty good at that now because I've been studying Irish, and Irish is fucking difficult to, learn because the pronunciation of their letters is different than ours. So like BH is like a V sound. So like things like that. I'm really enjoying it so far, which I was surprised. I was thinking, this is going to be dry because this isn't really a narrative. It's the history of Middle-earth pretty much. Like this is like a history book, but written from somebody that, came from that era. Like how our history is, it would be written from somebody that lived there. So somebody that lived in Middle-earth and, was a historian of Middle-earth. But it's still really cool how it goes because the beginning's a creation myth. So you have Iluvatar, which is God, and he creates like this music and these things called Ainors, which are pretty much like angels or gods in their own right. And then they create the earth, which is called Arda. And then the world is actually the universe, and it's very complex. But so I went into the whole creation myth. I finally finished that, and I'm just like, man, that's very nice.
Now, do you feel like that's the proper way? Like, should you read, like The Hobbit, then, the trilogy, and then come back to this, even though that this is like all set up for the universe?
I would say so, just for the fact that if you read the Silmarillion
you might just be like, fuck it.
It's going to melt your head, because it's so different. Like, the writing, like I said, it's really beautiful, but it's so much more complex, and I would say archaic or ancient, the way it's written, because it's supposed to be from the beginning of time. That is just, I don't know, it's really interesting. I don't have the book down here. I would read a paragraph or something, but I didn't know Tolkien, like just from reading Lord of the Rings, this guy's a good writer. This is going to segue into the episode, by the way, later on, the topic. But I didn't know Tolkien was like that great of a writer until I started reading the Silmarillion. I was like, oh, this guy's like on the level of fucking, Proust and
this kind of
James Joyce and stuff.
Seems like, just from what you were telling me, it almost seems like he took like his notes from ward building and just put it in the book, you know what I mean? And kind of made
a lot of these ideas he started way before he did anything with Lord of the Rings and anything like that. So there's like too much history. I'm never going to catch up on all that stuff. I'm just going to read the Silmarillion and then some of the other Tolkien books I have in that world, but I'm not going to be like one of those hardcore nerds that goes into like the appendixes and fucking studies everything, because it's not real. Like, I don't need to memorize the whole history of everything. That's not something real. It just seems kind of pointless to me. For people who do, if that's what you like to do, that's fine. It's really getting immersed in that world. That brings me on to another topic, though, because I've leveled up. And this is like a blasphemy for the DPW folks, at least for you, me, and all the other thousands of writers on DPW that work for us that nobody knows about that are toiling away in the drunken pen writing minds. I'm thinking about reading Shakespeare. Thinking about starting with some of the plays, like the more popular ones, maybe like King Richard III or Hamlet or, one of the easier ones. But I brought up an excerpt of, I think it was Richard III, and I started reading. I was like, maybe after the Silmarillion, I'll be up at that high. It's another level up for me to be able to understand everything going on and stuff. But if I read that, you're joining me. You got to join me.
Non-committal.
It'll be like when you read The Stranger. It levels you up to being able to talk about that now. So we could talk about Shakespeare.
But I mean, like, The Stranger was really quick and easy to read.
So you're thinking like Henry VI isn't?
I'm guessing. Well, I haven't read any of the Henrys through 1 through 5th, so I would have no idea what's going on.
You're so stupid. I want to punch you right in the face. Henry's 1 through 5th. Was there Henry's 1 through 5th? The Kings? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't read them.
Because they don't exist.
Oh,
maybe they do. I don't know. I was looking up reading guides, though, for Shakespeare because there's different preferred reading orders for these things. Some say you can go into it deep dive and just start at the beginning. But that's when you get like Henry VI, which apparently is terrible. It's just very boring and dry and not Shakespeare style at all. Or they have, which I like this one. I think this is a better idea. There's a reading guide where it's the seasons. It goes by seasons. So like summer, you have Midsummer's, I think it was Midsummer's Dream. Midsummer's Night Dream. I think that's it. And then what's the one, the Julius Caesar one? Like that's for March or something. You do that in March. And like there's just different seasons for the Shakespeare plays. What the fuck was that? Oh my God. Mindy's looking for the Silmarils I hid.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of maybe going into that. But again, like I read some of the excerpt of Richard III and I was just like, oh man, I would really have to focus on this. And I'm not like at plays, man.
But that would be like down the line though, right?
Yeah,
like
that's not going to be soon.
That's like next year's Caleb's problem.
Yeah, when the evolution of Caleb's keeps going up. So maybe by then I'll be a pretentious jerk off.
Right now you're like in that Vince McMahon meme when he's in the ring sitting and like his eyes are glowing and stuff.
Yeah.
You're like third from the bottom. You're almost
I'm not blowing my mind.
Yeah, but you're almost there.
Yeah, so there's that, but I wanted to bring this up real quick. I think our next book actually should be that Vonnegut, what is that? That Titan book. I forget the name of that. It's on my bookshelf. But
that's why it should be the next one, because it's on your bookshelf.
Because it's on my bookshelf, but also because it's apparently really good. I was looking things up for it. The fuck was the name of that book?
I don't know.
I keep wanting to say Still Titan. That's not right. Something on Titan. But we'll talk about that later.
I finished.
You read still?
Yes. I finished Wendy's Final Task, the third in the trilogy of books, most of them co-written with Stephen King and Richard Chesmar, I do believe is how you pronounce his last name.
I feel that's a lot easier to get through, like more of a page turner than the Silmarillion has been.
Yeah. Oh,
no creation myths in this. It is magic based, isn't it, or something though? I thought it was like.
Well, it kind of ties into some of the Dark Tower stuff.
Yeah, that's.
And he has that fairy tale one coming out later in the year, which is probably going to be more like magical, I would think.
That's 100% what I'm confusing that with. Isn't that start with a G too? Isn't that like a Gwendolyn or something?
No. Like I said, that one's just fairy. The one coming out is fairy tale.
Is that what it's called, fairy tale?
Yeah, it's just called. At least that's what I've heard it. Like whenever I've seen stuff for it, it's been called fairy tale.
And you're gonna read that?
I don't know if whenever it comes out, but yeah, I'll definitely get it and read it eventually. But it was really good, especially if you read the first two in the series and enjoyed those. This one's actually because those other ones were in like 150 pages, maybe 200 at the most. These were 400. This was a 400 guy, but I read it in like 6 days. Like it's real quick and fun.
Well, that's good. I'm happy for you that you read a book you liked.
Yay! Before you make me read some shit that I'm gonna.
We're supposed to do fucking Sherlock Holmes soon. That's not gonna be bad.
Well, we don't.
Unless you do Frankenstein. You said you were gonna do Frankenstein next.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be next or not, but
I have some suggestions.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
We'll talk about that off air. Welcome to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your super sexy host, Caleb James. With me today, as always, every day, damn near. You only missed, I think, one episode, like of the official podcast.
Yeah.
I don't remember why. Maybe you just weren't around. I don't know. You're probably hammered drunk and boozing it up and
Probably. As in jail.
doing coke off of hookers. With me is Spencer, the Madagascar Mooch Church.
I like it.
You're mooching off of folks in Madagascar.
It's not the worst thing that I've done in my names.
Not even close, really. I still think the vegan violator was pretty bad.
It also is very it doesn't necessarily give you.
It's a very gray area.
Yeah,
you don't
like,
know
what
exactly what you're doing. You're just violating. That can be a multitude of things, and they get progressively worse as you think about them. Most people, I think, anymore, they think of violating, they just go sexual.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything. You could be just trying to make them eat meat. You could just be going, you could be booing them. Yeah, that's all. Today, as I very shittily touched on in the opening, I said that something about Tolkien being a great writer and stuff. Well, I brought that up because it makes me feel really bad about my writing, Spencer.
Oh, yeah?
Have you ever felt bad about your writing?
Yeah.
Well, today's episode, which we might have did this before, but we'll take a little bit of a different angle on this one, is about imposter syndrome. Blah, 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 blah. And also, before we even get into that, I wanted to ask you if you ever have this problem. Because this is a problem that I've pointed out myself many times, actually, and I'm really trying to find a way to, I guess, just be nicer to myself. Have you ever felt like you're just not doing enough, even when you are doing the things you plan on doing? I'll give you an example. Let's say, here's 3 random examples of my life. So I go to the gym all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think to myself, I didn't work out hard enough. And then I read every fucking day. But then I think, I'm not reading enough.
I didn't read enough.
And then I've been writing every day, hitting my writing goals. And then I'm thinking, I'm not writing enough. It's always never, it's never enough. And then I'm thinking, why do I feel like that? Why does it constantly feel like I'm not doing enough?
I like how neither 3 of those examples were like, I'm a good husband, or like, I'm trying to be a real good husband to my wife. I taking care of the animal babies.
Just stop right there. I don't need any of that horse hockey husband stuff. I don't. You know what? I'm great. Don't make me feel more depressed about myself. So have you ever had this problem where maybe you are doing some of the things you set out to do, but you still feel like you're not doing enough?
I have never, ever, in anything that I've ever done, writing, outside of writing, even like you were saying, like if I did a good job, it's still just like shit. Like shit. Yeah, it's like I have the Midas shit touch. Just anything that I come and touch, just shit.
You got the brown touch.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you said, tomorrow I want to write 500 words, and you sat down and you wrote 500 words, you would still be like, shit.
I would be like, because I have been like the couple of times I haven't been able to write as much, but when I have been able to write, I have been able to get bigger chunks for me like that, like 500 words. But then I'm just like, man, if I could just fucking boggle down and like, because half of that time was spent just like flitting around or looking at just looking at the ceiling or stuff, like how much more I could get done if I actually could get myself to focus more, or just to do that amount more consistently,
Yeah.
And it's just like, it doesn't seem like no matter how much I try or what, it just is never
enough.
Never enough.
What I've been trying to do is, which I've successfully been doing since the beginning of the year, is write every day, other than that little bout where I was sick and stuff. But I've upped my goal now. I want to get, and this is a lofty goal, 8 pages a day, which I haven't got anywhere close. I just started that this week, and I haven't, 1 page a day was the most I got so far for like 3 or 4 days in a row. Last night I got half a page. So I'm thinking to myself, failure, you fucking suck, just die. But that's not the way to be, because I'm still exceeding my initial goal of just writing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think maybe we put the pressure on ourselves that doesn't need to be there.
Well, and then too, if you do that, like you're like, I have to get like this many pages. Like, okay, you might get that many pages, but like, how is the quality of those pages? Like, how much cleanup are you going to have to do when you go back around?
I'm trying to switch my mind to thinking that the better way to go is, hit 8 pages a day Like, that's the goal, but don't feel bad if you don't, as long as you did something. So if I can get 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, that's great. I don't have to hate on myself for that. It's just like if I get those 8 pages, then I can really be pumped. That's like the way I'm trying to think, is to be more positive versus I just don't do enough.
Well, that's also kind of like a little ambitious as well, because as you know, we both know, we probably brought up, on this multiple times as an example, Stephen King tries to get 6 pages a day.
Yeah.
And like that guy's a fucking machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're trying to get 2 more pages than he does, because you figure if you just go by like the
you have
normal,
to remember, I'm handwriting, so these aren't as big. These aren't full computer pages. These are just normal notebook pages. So I don't know how. Like, I would assume that's less. So I'm probably only really getting 4 or 5 typed up pages, I would think. I'm really interested to see, because I'm like almost 100 pages into my notebook. It's not a Moleskine, but it's like one of the sizes of those, like the normal size ones. So I'm interested to see when I convert that, how many pages that'll actually be. But
even if it just ends up being like 4 or 5 typed pages, that's still like almost like what, like 3,000 words. Like that's
good bit. Well, see, here's my problem, which you already addressed. It's when I'm sitting there, I just think, if I really focused and didn't start writing at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, when I got home, just started writing and just sat down. And because I know when I sit down and write, I'll write a little bit, I'll write a couple paragraphs, and then I kind of like just fucking look off. I'm like, go back to writing, and I'm not really in the zone all the time, but so like even if I get in the zone, the most I'll get is like a page, and then I'm just kind of like, all right, fuck with my phone, but then I think that's where the self-loathing comes in. It's like, if I just fucking stop fucking off and just sit down and for 3 hours just write nothing but write because I have the time, I'll be great. So it's knowing that I could actually hit those 8 pages every day, and I'm just not, because I'm not writing the whole time I could be. That's where my downfall lies. But I need to just stop thinking like that. I need to be like, hey, just get like, I'm still hitting my goal of writing every day. And 8 pages is, like you said, very lofty. But what I could do is just keep trying to up it until I, get up that way, work my way to that. And then maybe by the time I do, 8 pages won't be so bad. And then by the time I even get up to that, I'll probably be done with the fucking book. So that'd be a success in my book. But that works with all, like I said, all things in life. It's not just writing or reading, because there's no reason I should say, oh, I'm not reading enough, because I look at my bookshelf and have all these books. I've been fucking finishing like 2 books a week. Like, how much more reading can I get while I'm still writing and doing, life stuff? More. It's always more. And main thing always comes down is like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't be watching all these stupid reels and TikToks and shit. I shouldn't be on YouTube. I shouldn't be. But since you shouldn't be doing that for real long periods of time. But at the same time, you kind of do have to let your brain chill out for a while.
Even like, the different writing podcasts that we listen to, whenever full-time authors, get on and they talk about they write for 30, 45 minutes and then do the laundry or run an errand or two and then come back and pull another
which is what
hour,
I've been doing lately. Yeah, that's mainly what I've been doing. My problem is it's hard for me to get back to the writing. I've been on a streak of I'll write a little bit in the afternoon if I have time, and then when I get home, I'll try to do some before bed. Bringing up that hammock, I think that's going to be a big help, because being outside, even when reading, when I'm outside, I focus a lot more because there's not any real distractions. So hopefully maybe I could start writing in the hammock and that'll work. But
other than those animals with the bones sticking out of their heads, the deer.
That was a really weird way to say that.
Yeah, because that's weird. They got their bones sticking out their head.
Yeah, but they fall off.
That makes it more weird.
Going on to the next part of this. So now that we have established that we both feel like we could be doing more all the time, and I would imagine most of our listeners probably feel like this, so don't feel like you're alone, people, if you think, I'm not doing enough. That's just pressure you're putting on yourself, and pressure that probably comes from outside sources too, because you see Instagram influencers, and it seems like they got their shit together. Everybody always seems like they got their shit together, but you. And that's never the case, really.
Do you ever get, I get, flabbergasted and, angry, again, whenever, we listen to some of these writing podcast, and the guy's I want to do a book a month. I want to write, and they might be super quick at typing too, because I know that's part of my issue, and I could put and there's things I can do to help that. It's my actual typing speed doesn't help me. But I was saying, even if you're still a fast ass typer, to make a book a month, and if you're actually publishing it,
I can't imagine it being good.
It can't, right? Like, you'd have to be like, especially if you're like, nothing against them, but especially when it comes to like these indie authors, it's like, I don't know, like, that's very questionable. Like,
well, who the fuck's their editor that's able to edit one book a month? Because if you have a proper edit session, that's going to take more than a week, I would think, unless that's all they're doing is just focusing on your one book. Because think about it. How hard is it just to read 300 to 500 page novel in 1 week?
That's rough.
And then now you have to go through, find plot holes, find spelling errors, then like
and
everything.
You would probably take multiple passes through it too.
Yeah, so you're reading the fucking thing multiple times. Like I don't imagine that's working right. So I mean, I guess if you got ahead of yourself and then you have you're writing a book every month while your last book is getting edited, like maybe you can finally catch up. But that's like, it's ridiculous. Why the fuck are you even trying to do that many books a month? I don't think that's a good idea. But it's good. Like I said, going into the next part of this topic, like I mentioned, imposter syndrome, and I'm pretty sure we did cover this before, so I'm not going to go into like great detail on this. I have a different look on the whole imposter syndrome thing because what happened to me, was that yesterday? The day before yesterday, I was writing in my room, and I was sitting there, and I got to a scene where it goes back, information from the very first chapter pops up. And like I said, I'm like almost 100 pages in. I think I'm on chapter 6 or something. When did I start writing this? February? Maybe?
Something like that.
Maybe even before February?
Yeah, it might have been at the end of the last year.
And honestly, I came up with the first chapter probably like last fall, maybe even summer, like the ideas for it and everything. So it's been a while since I went, back to that first chapter, and I haven't reread it since I written it because it's the first draft. I was writing, and I came up to this spot where I was like, shit, is this right? Is this going to be a plot hole? Like, what? I have to go back to find, the information. So I go back and I start rereading the first chapter, and it's not shit. Like, I'm just like completely expecting that everything I've written so far is dog shit and it's going to be heavily edited and rewrites and stuff. But I read it, and forgetting that I wrote most of it, we talked about that before, forgetting what you've written before. I was like, this isn't bad. Like, you still see the things you need to fix and stuff, but I'm like, this is solid. Like, this is entertaining. This is good. It's just not dog shit. So I'm just like, a little breath of fresh air. I'm just thinking, okay, I can just have a little relaxation now. I don't have to be so stressed about thinking like, oh, is this book going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Because I at least know the writing is still, like, the quality of the writing is decent enough that I don't hate it going back. Because I read a lot of writing, like indie authors and stuff. I was like, I fucking hate this. This sucks. But like, I didn't feel that.
Even just authors, like how many,
Oh yeah, where you just like Cormac McCarthy. Yeah. I was like, I fucking hate this. But I've done that with my own writing in the past, where I've done like short stories and stuff. And then when I let them percolate for a while, and I go back and I'm like, oh, this is like, I don't even release them. I'm like, this is fucking doo doo. This is terrible. Everything sucks. The imagery's awful. I don't know why I wrote this, but have not had that with the thing. So it goes to the imposter syndrome where it's like, oh man, am I really a writer? Am I really good? I'm like, why am I even doing this? Just being able to go back and like checking it out and stuff. I'm like, all right, I don't have to feel so bad. Like this is all right. Like everything's going smoothly. I can just keep going and I don't have to worry about it. Like, have you checked out like the beginning of your story that you're working on now? Cause you said it's pretty long now, right?
Yeah, I'm right around like 6,000 words on it right now. Not really, because I haven't really, like I haven't really done anything to reference anything from really earlier without other things, and then small things, but I can I remembered it wasn't anything like like
eye color and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that. But no, I don't know. It's been a while since I've read any of my stuff that even like we put out on the website and stuff like that. Probably the last thing was whenever you read that that short story for that 1 week that we couldn't record because we were trading back and forth and being deadly sick,
Yeah.
And then like that I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of like that, like that's a fun premise, but like even though I was like I didn't really even do anything in that, that whole thing was like nothing, like you know what I mean? Like there was no actual like story to it really. It was just this
idea.
Buffoon like who just stumbled upon a dispensary for some reason that nobody everybody just left alone like.
The plot holes galore. Yeah. Well, I recommend maybe going back and checking out I would recommend going back and checking out your early work, your mid work, and then your more recent work, just to see the progression. Because when I do that, I'm always like, man, I sucked ass. And then mid-work, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And then recent work, I'm like, hey, I really like this. Like, well, it's for our collection, so it's not released yet. But I think I put it on the website for like a week or a day or something. But the monster story I wrote, I really, really liked that story. Even going back and rereading, I was like, this is, for me anyway, this is the kind of story I want to read. So that's what's always important with my writing is I want to write a story that I would want to read. I don't really care if the audience wants to read it. It's just what I want to read.
I do, in that regard, I do feel like the stories that I do write are, like you said, like obviously the topic interests me, and I feel like too, like if you get to the point of you get enough people reading it, they'll be like, that's, like that, like that's like that's one of my stories, or that seemed like something that he that I would write, So in that regard, I do feel like I have, like, I guess I don't know if you want to say that it sounds pretend, but like, like I found my voice, but
Yeah.
but not really, but like I do feel like I can, like, I'm doing things that I would like to read. If I wasn't writing them, I would want to get this off the bookshelf and read it.
Well, I wish I could say that all writers were like that, but I find in the case of, especially in the indie writing community, but even James Patterson types established writers, you could tell that they don't really have a love for writing or storytelling, and they're not telling the story that they want to read. They're telling the story that they think people want to read to get money and exposure.
They're just like, oh, I need to put a book out this quarter, so I can have another round of like royalty checks come in,
So they don't, they don't care about any of the story, probably none of the messaging or the themes or anything. They're just like, this is just a story. I know people like vampires. I'm gonna write a vampire story. And that's why a lot of fiction I see online for sale and stuff is like all the fucking same anymore. And two, it's just it's boring. Like, I don't know why you think that's gonna sell if you're writing the same story everyone else is selling.
Yeah.
Like, why would you stand out? I think you're always gonna stand out if you're telling the story you want to read. So, because I've been heavily influenced in the last couple years by things like, Robert E. Howard and the sword and sorcery stuff, Michael Moorcock, even like with the Tolkien works now. Murakami, like that's all meshing into my style. But those are the kind of stories I want to read. So those are the stories I'm more focused on writing. And guess what? Classic sword and sorcery, which is what I like. I can't say anything about modern sword and sorcery or modern fantasy because I don't really read it. But I would imagine it's a lot different than the stuff I'm reading written in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But that's the stuff I like. So I like writing in that style. I like telling stories in that way. And maybe not everyone will, enjoy that, but that's what makes me happy. So those are the stories I want to tell. So that's what I've been focusing on. And like the story I'm telling now is a modern story. But like I said, in a couple podcasts now, it's getting some Murakami influence in there without me even really realizing it first, just because I've read so much of his work.
Well, really, and just from what I know from that story, like the time period doesn't really
matter.
Have like a big influence.
I mean, there's cell phones, so it's modern, but I don't think I actually say the date.
But they had cell phones by the end of Seinfeld, so
yeah. But
I think how long ago that was.
But they're not smartphones.
Well, okay.
I'm trying to be current with the phone usage without making it prominent. We had this discussion on our technology episode. I think we had a technology episode. We have to do too much. Like,
if not technology episode next week.
Next week, technology. Is it good? Is it bad? Stick around and stay tuned. No, I'm liberal with the technology and the thing, but it's gonna be completely taken out once I get to. Here's where I think my story. I don't know if it makes it stand out. I'm probably sounding like a douche here. But, you always hear about, like, the muddy middle, the murky middle, like, stories where the writer gets bogged down in the middle, and a lot of times that can be kind of the boring part. The middle of my story is where everything fucking happens and goes crazy, so I'm actually really excited. Like, it's where the whole mirror flips around, and you see a completely different image. Like, it's a whole different world, like a Murakami style. A lot of his stories, like, in the middle, it gets fucking crazy. So that's where my story's going. And I'm really excited to write that. And there's going to be no cell phones once I get there because it's a whole different world. There's going to be, hard fantasy, not necessarily hard fantasy elements, but like the hike kind of elements, like weird, crazy shit like that. But so I'm going to go into that. So I'm excited I could just ditch the whole fucking phone stuff and just to, again, tell the story I want to tell. And it's really interesting to see how in my first successful novel, writing it, being successful at continuing it, because I've written a couple things where it starts as a novel and it fucking peters out, or I usually just lose like the desire to write it. That's mainly what always happened to me before. But this one, like, I'm excited to write, but I'm excited to see how like the progression of my writing and my own voice, but then you can see my influences come out. Like I said, Murakami, Yukio Mishima, Steinbeck, even Hemingway to an example, because some of my like parts I'm like, oh, this needs to be more simplistic. And it's just, it's cool to see all the stuff you've read in your life combined into like your own style. So I am happy to say I finally, I think, found my writing voice, because God knows it's been like 10 years of trying. And you mentioned like you're touching upon like your writing voice. You said you kind of are finding it, or just like, the way you're telling the stories you want to tell, but do you think you're finding your style of telling them, like your unique style?
I think I'm finding more the kind of stories than that I want to tell.
So you need to just get the actual, like, how you tell it part to be you.
Yeah, I guess. But even though then too, you don't want to be too, because you don't want every book to sound this,
Well, yeah, but Cormac McCarthy, all his books are written the same, pretty much. But some of them are good.
Yeah.
Outer Dark was really good. I gave it 5 stars. So there's that. That's a surprise. In summation, be kind to yourself, Spencer.
Nah, he doesn't deserve it.
Stop walking around with the poop on your finger and touching people thinking you're Midas, but everything's going to turn to shit. They don't like that. Another bit I want to touch upon that doesn't have anything to do with
what we were talking about?
Without the topic. I don't know what I'm going to name this. This is a DBS episode now. I don't know what I'm going to name this episode, because we didn't really talk about imposter syndrome too much. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we covered that.
Yeah. And then, too, I feel like we can have a level of imposter syndrome, but until we actually put out, like, a published work of some kind, I feel like that's whenever you can kind of really get into that discussion, because then you have, like, evidence of, like, is it selling? Is it not selling? Is it getting good reviews? Is it getting bad reviews? Can you get anybody to read it at all? Or,
I'm not looking
or
forward
will your
to
mom
that.
even throw it in the toilet? Like,
I want to break into, for those who haven't written a novel yet or are thinking about writing a novel, such as yourself, who is at novella length you're trying to work on, but you're not quite at the novel. In my experience so far, it is a lot more difficult in the regard that retaining the information and keeping things straight. That's not what I got. I'm pretty good. I write my stories in a linear fashion. I just go A to Z. I don't. I'm not one of those people where this scene. If I have a cool scene and I don't want to miss it, I'll just write the notes for that scene and then I'll deal with it when I get to it. I don't like going all over the place. The problem that comes up with that is, like, when I said I couldn't remember a certain reference I needed in my story, I had to go back, and then I'm realizing now that that's becoming more and more of a problem as I get farther on. It's like, what the fuck happened at the beginning? I should have really kept more notes of things that you think are minor.
You need to make like a cheat sheet or something.
Yeah, but like at this point now, I got to read 100 pages if I want to do that. It's difficult, but that's the part. Because I thought going into the novel, the difficult part of writing the novel would be the actual telling the story and the pacing, and all the things we think of. Did not think it would have been like, oh, is this going to be a plot hole? Oh, is it going to be am I leaving this out? Did I change the eye color? Did I do this? Did I do that?
How many times has this person died?
Yeah, well, I hope never. That's more when you get into series, I think. I'm just at the setup for everything that's going to happen. So, like, I'm just getting into the very end of the setup for everything. And what the catalyst is for, like the big event that's going to move my story forward. Having like the information just already out of my mind of what I need for the future part, that's kind of scaring me, because once I get into like the crazy stuff, I'm like, how much more shit am I going to have forgotten by then? And like you said, I should have had a fucking cheat sheet. I don't know. But the thing is, like, okay, like the one scene, it's like a big deal for the story, but at the same time, it should have been like something I wouldn't have forgotten, but I did. I have a couple, like the guy, he's going to fly to Ireland, and he was like, at the beginning I had set up he was going to go to school in Ireland, and then I changed that as I was going on, so I'm going to have to retcon that, but I couldn't remember if his girlfriend was supposed to go. She's like she's the other protagonist. I couldn't remember if she was going to go with him or if I made it because
because especially whenever we were when we were brainstorming, that was one of the things we kept on going back and forth.
Well, I got rid of the school aspect. I made it so because he has family in Ireland now, and I decided it'd be more of a fucking like chapter cliffhanger if I made it so his mom dies and that's why he goes back, because he may still go to school in Ireland in the fall or whatever, but I think that my story's in like spring, summertime. He's gonna go back to Ireland because he has to go to the funeral, and that's what the event goes off of. But then I'm like, well, what the fuck did I do? Like, why was he going before? Then was she going with them? Because now she's gonna go with them, but so I had to go back, and it was just like this fucking big clusterfuck I had over something that should have just been cemented in my brain. So now I'm thinking, well, how many other times did I do this in this story already?
Or what you could do, since it's in the notebook, is just go with it. And as you're when you go to type it up, you're like, okay, he's going with her. And then, oh wait, no, she's not going with her. What am I gonna do? Like, what I mean? And save it for that part. So you're.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going back and changing anything now. But it's just like, it's tough because like I said, okay, so what happens when I get to 200 pages? And then like that part's completely, like the whole flying and all that shit's already been done with. So when I go to rewrite, like I'm going to have forgotten that again. And it's just like, that's just the things I did not expect that I was going to encounter here. Because like I said, my stories are very linear, so they're not, like, I couldn't imagine writing a series now. Like a Tolkien series. How the fuck do you keep all that in like okay, Lord of the Rings, even just something that's technically one book, but it's like so much information in there. It's like, how would you keep that all in line? How would you make sure like this fucking god that's mentioned one time doesn't become something else later on when you mention them, 5 books later or 5 fucking chapters later or something? I don't know what I'm saying. It's just fucking stupid. I don't know why I decided to be a writer. I changed my mind. I'm going to go and make pornos.
Yeah. Maybe.
Film them. I'm not gonna be in them anymore.
That Caleb retired.
Also, because I've been prolonging this, I have to read the last story in that Oblivion short story collection.
What, you just haven't been enjoying it, or
you have to wait for the episodes to drop?
Well, no, but I'm just saying you said you've been putting it off, so I thought maybe you have.
I think you can guess why I've been putting it off. If I was really enjoying it, do you think I would be putting it off?
Oh, no, you're reading like 5 things right now.
Actually, this last story is about poop and 9/11, so I might actually be excited for that. Ashley said it wasn't that bad. So anyway, folks, if you feel like you're an imposter, I don't know, just be nice to yourself and try not to be hard on yourself.
And look at it this way, even imposters, they make it all the time.
Stephanie Meyer, rich and famous. E.L. James, rich and famous. Are they writing good? Are they writing good? Are they writing good? That's about it.
Also writing good. Getting in that Shakespeare mode.
Oh, God, there's so many thys and thous. If you folks want to check out our fiction that is from the beginning maybe hot dookie and later on not so hot dookie, depends what Spencer's been touching.
Mild dookie.
I should have made you the Madagascar Midas.
Pooper.
It fucking fell apart before it even started. I'm sorry to say this, Spencer, but I'm thinking about switching the podcast day to another day because Thursdays have been awful. I've been having the worst Thursdays at work, and I just don't want to do this when I get home. Like last Thursday was the only time that it was like a good Thursday, and then I think we had a good episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, so yeah, go to drunkenpenwriting.com. I think we're done with the spring submissions. We only got I only wanted a few. We got a few, and I just didn't feel like fucking. It was a limited thing, and Spencer's got 5 stories that are gonna be published this week, right, Spencer?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
You could check us out on the old.
Didn't say they were new.
Refurbished. Just change the name.
Yeah.
Republish them. You could check us out on Twitter at DrunkenPenWriting, Instagram and Facebook at DrunkenPenWriting, and Spencer's OnlyFans at the Madagascar Mooch. Is that it?
Yeah, mooching.
So give me
money.
Yeah, fucking send them Cash App. Something or other. I don't know what the kids do today. I was on some forum today and some fucking girl said, DM me for your Cash App. And I was like, fuck you.
I don't know any of those words.
I don't know what that means. Leave me alone. I don't have Cash App. I don't have Venmo. I don't have any of that thing. Any of that stuff. So anyway, thank you for listening and enjoy our outro space music.